I want to show you about these little GC Honda motors. Highly underrated. And if you find one, you want to use it, I'm going to show you how to use it with the carb setup. Here we go. This is a 160 I ran on basically a vintage grass cart. It was a Margay Cheetah. This is a 190 back here. It's got the tapered crankshaft, so it's pretty much going to be used just for parts. That's what it's been used for. And sits a 190 that is basically I bought for $50 off of Marketplace. These are rated at 5 horsepower. The 190s are rated at 6 horsepower. The 190s have more torque than a 212 Predator. They weigh 8 pounds less, and they have a smaller footprint. These little motors are ideal for mini bikes or small carts. I did take that big bulk front cover off, and I had to run some rubber tubing. I took some rubber tubing and made some spacers to keep this so I could still use the pull start. I did wear the pull start out. Guy on eBay makes a header for it. That's what this is, with the muffler adapter welded to it. He even makes a style that wraps around and comes out the back, more for like a mini bike. He's on eBay. I think he's in Florida. Really nice guy. Matter of fact, this was designed where this actually would have stuck down past the mounting deck. And when I contacted him, I asked him to custom shorten this, and instead of just saying I can't do it and throwing me one in a box, he actually made the muffler shorter for me so I could run it. This is a Mikuni knockoff carb. If everybody goes, well, what I do at the throttle, yada yada yada, just get rid of your governor linkage. That's what I did. I go buy these little filters from the farm store, just stick a piece of rubber tubing in them, use them as a breather for my crankcase. This black spacer here is the spacer that comes behind the stock carburetor. It has like an idle circuit in it that would create a vacuum leak. So you have to take this and flat sand it until you get that idle circuit out of there. And then the way this is set up is you can actually port this out bigger and port this piece of manifold, which I'll get to here in a second, to match to flow better. I didn't do that. I just butted them together. Because the Predator cylinder head is slightly, on the bolt pattern, slightly cocked. This one's, side to side symmetrical. You have to buy this piece in 3 pieces. You have to buy the rubber sleeve, the silicone sleeve. You have to buy the part that bolts to the head that is just a tube, which is what I did here. And then you have to buy the actual carb kit and then take that manifold and cut the end of it off, which would have been this, and stick that in there. So you actually have 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3. And what that does is that allows you to clock the carb like this. Otherwise, it's going to sit crooked and probably not going to run right. This little motor will scoot. These will scoot. They do have a timing belt in them, like a vacuum belt. It's got a plastic cam gear. The crank gear, it's got a belt in between it. Some of your Max Performance Predator, the 224 and the Coleman 196 cc's, they both have a plastic cam gear that runs off the metal crank gear. I think the crank gear in here is metal. This is a Hilliard Extreme Duty clutch, so I ran a good clutch on it. I did have to run a pulse pump, which they do. These naturally have a port for the pulse pump, which I think is here. But you will have to run a pulse pump and auxiliary tank. If you have one of these motors, they have an aluminum flywheel. Great motor. If you can find these, $50, $75, like I said, you might have another, $50 into to get your carb set up. I think I paid $50 for the muffler once he custom. I shipped it, blah, blah, blah. You might have $200 into it, and like I said, why don't you just get a Predator? Well, you can. But like I said, if you're looking for a smaller footprint, then you might want to go with these, or if you're just looking for something that looks a little more old school, Briggs and Stratton, or something's going to look a little more cool in a mini bike that, straight up and down jug on it, then go for that. But the GC 160, 190, it's a viable motor if you're willing to work with it.